That's a really interesting thing. Like feeling assaulted by your own genes.
One of the things I've been reading The Selfish Gene because I reference Richard Dawkins' work so often that I feel like I should know what he's saying.
Yeah.
Firsthand. And one of the things that he's often accused of saying, which he gives a counterexample of, he says, I'm not saying this, and I even have examples demonstrating that I don't think this. The opponents of Richard Dawkins will often say that he thinks that we are entirely under the influence of our genes. That there is no free will, that everything is coded into us from the beginning. But clearly that's not the case. For example, we use birth control. That is us not doing what our genes want, you know? There's clearly this distinction between the human that the genes are coding for and the actual instance, the actual thing that lives and thinks and feels and stuff. And the nature of my being is that I'm just a machine. I'm just a tool for the information that I'm carrying to continue existing, you know. And I will be sacrificed surely as a worker bee that stings, loses its stinger, and dies to protect the hive. Just as surely as that, my well-being will be put in danger and sacrificed for the sake of the information that I carry propagating more. So I don't feel like this lovey-dovey relationship with the code inside me, my own blueprints. There is conflict there. They don't have my best interests at heart, really. It's something that I have to coexist with.
Yeah. That's such a strange thing. So you are you're at this your identity is at war with what nature has prescribed your identity to be, almost.
I have a role that my genes want me to play. My genes want me to be a specialist for violence. And I'm fortunate enough that I live in an era where violence is, I'd say, obsolete, but looking outside my window, I guess not. But far less necessary than it's ever been before. And that the preparation that my genes have done to get me to fill that role better are now working, and not just me, but every other man on this planet, are now working against us, and it's probably producing more violence through our own pigheadedness than it's actually protecting us from, I think. And I'm disappointed when I see this hysterical defense of masculinity, because men on the internet feel like they're under attack by feminism or whatever. It's like, don't you realize that we're gonna destroy the world? Don't you, obviously that's being melodramatic, but I do feel like this moving of humans away from the polarized gender roles and letting them actually think clearly without the influence of the genes trying to get them to fit those roles better, to be more submissive or more dominant, more powerful, more beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kind of the narrative or the path of identity that you're kind of carving out here is like identity is found apart from what nature has given you, apart from your genes. You have to launch kind of a war on your own biology in order to separate yourself from, what would otherwise be a predetermined mode of
that's the human as surely as your mind is at war with your heart, so are you as a person at war with your genes. And it's part of the human condition. I've talked to you before about how I think that personhood, an element of personhood is possessing some autonomy from the prescribed behaviors and other stuff that's in your genes, or that's in your code, even if it's a computer or whatever. Being able to deviate from one's programming is part of what makes a person a person.
Yeah, I say we inspect that. I think... So recently, this is a counterexample. Yeah, generally I want to push against that, and because basically the path to happiness that you're liberty and happiness that you're carving out is like perpetually antagonistic. It's always going to be achieved through antagonism, and that seems to like preclude the any chance of like peace with oneself. You know, if who you are is if who you are biologically is you know, ipso facto, like not who you want to be, like in terms of just personality. I don't know. That's a pretty dire view.
If you're laying that out as what I'm saying, then clearly I've not entirely communicated what I think. I think that there are elements of my genetic predisposition that end up net harming me in terms of liberty and happiness. Like another part of my like disease. I have psoriasis. It's a genetic disease that I have that makes my life slightly less comfortable. And I am constantly trying to live better than my psoriasis would have me live left unchecked, you know?
Okay.
I'm constantly trying to go beyond that. And so that part of I am antagonistic with my genes in that way. Mm-hmm. And so I am with the genes that code for me being violent and permissive of violence. But I'm not at odds with every part of my being. I mean, I was also blessed with relatively high intelligence, and I'm not antagonistic towards my genes for the part that they played in that.
Okay.
Clearly, your genes code for a million different facets of your personality.
Yeah.
Some of which are harmful to your liberty and happiness, and some of which are helpful to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so freedom is achieved through this kind of like this juggling of an engine that you're given, and you have to find out what buttons to press and what buttons to not press.
My fighting against the bad stuff doesn't mean that I think that it's all bad stuff.
Right.
But some of it is. I think. Okay.
That's a lot more palatable.
Reasonable?
Yeah.
It always was that way. So one of the things.
Well, but what was the phrase that you said? Freedom is achieved through. Yeah, I don't know. You said something like fighting against these things. Yeah, and I agree with that too. I mean, I can fit that in a Christian narrative as well. You know, like the elements of sin that you know, life is a constant battle. But
one of the ways that one of the reasons why the emotional, I'm going to say manipulations, but I mean that in a more neutral sense than a negative sense. Just what manipulation is like what a potter does to clay. You know, it's just something that changes people. One of the reasons why the emotional manipulations that often lead to people becoming religious and believing in a creator God have been less impactful on me is that I don't really think that the intentions of a creator would really change who I am or what I want. You know, I don't think that creating me provides me with any kind of obligation to my creator any more than, I mean, like I do what my parents want because I love them, not because I feel like in that they created me, I owe them. They did invest a lot of resources in my survival, which is great and I'm thankful for, but I pass that forward. You know, it's
you're saying you've gone beyond you've gone beyond duty, so it's in a more free aspect of love.
Yeah, like I don't think that the ultimate show of love is total obedience, you know, and the self-destruction of one's own liberty. And I wouldn't ask that of any of the people that I loved, friends, girlfriends, wife, children. I wouldn't ask them to not do the thing that makes them happy or to give up control over their own life out of love for me. That's not what I think that love is to consider another person to be an extension of yourself. And that means that I want for them liberty and happiness just like myself. So I think that it would only be a perverse sort of love that would prioritize maintaining this relationship and keeping somebody in a trap close to you over letting them leave if they so chose.